Great. So in the last video, we have completed the entire CSS for our extension. In this video, we're going to write the HTML for our extension. So here I've opened the project. You can see this is the asset folder. This is the API. And in that we have all the models, the controller, auth controller model, all the models we have. Then we have the router, all the routers like account, token, and user. Close this one. And this is the app where we have built all the routers and we are calling the model. This is the config file. I hope you guys have got your private key, database key, and the password and the configuration you have done. And I would suggest you don't use my, because I'm going to delete this particular repository after this project. So it's not going to work if you use my database and the password. And this is the entire CSS we have written in this video, and this is the pop-up.js, and in this video we're going to write the HTML for our code. So this one is going to be a quite fun, and hope you guys are at the same place where I am right now. So I'm going to make the browser side by sides. All we have to do is to build the skeleton, build the HTML, and we have to attach the classes we have already built, and the styling will take place. So there is I have started the application with the live server, and I hope you know what is live server. If you don't know, simply install the live server from the extensions, and you can click and you can start coding. So first thing I will do is I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to take this exclamation mark and hit tab. So it will generate the boilerplate for me. And now I have to give the title. So I'll say blockchain coder, and all the resources is provided in the blockchain coder, so you can go and you can check from there. So we have the title. You can see the title is changed in the browser. Now we have to work on the HTML. So first thing we have to do is, let me type this hey, and you can see our live server is working absolutely fine. We have to import our CSS file, so let's take that. So this is the file which we have here. Now we're going to open it, and now let's write the HTML. So first we'll take a div. It will have a class called card. Inside that we'll take another div. It will have a class called card2, and inside that we have to take the header component. So we'll take this header. I'm going to comment this one, and here we're going to build the header component. So we'll take a div, and we'll say header, end of header component. Inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called header, and inside that we'll take a div. It will have a class called header logo. Inside that we'll take the image, and we have to give the image. So we have the images in the asset folder, and from there we're going to select this particular image, save it, and let's assign the attribute. So this is how it will look. Pretty good. You can see how things are coming together because we have already done all the hard work. Now we can come here. Now we have to come out from header logo, and we'll take a div. It will have a class, and we'll say header network. It will have the ID called header network, and we'll take a paragraph. If you come back here, if you open this assets, inside the assets we have all the images, and we have this CSV file. So we're going to use the icon. So we're going to use this particular icon question. Simply click on that, and that's what we're going to take it. So if I show you, so I have already installed that extension in the browser, and you can see if I click on that, we have these icons, and we have this arrow drop down, we have the question marks, and that's what we need. Okay, so come back here. Let's click on this question, copy that one, come back here in the HTML and paste here. Okay, it's a huge CSV file. Close this one, and here we have to take the display our text. So we'll take a span, and it will have an ID called selected network, and here we have to set the default to polygon Mumbai. Save it. Here you can see. Now we have to take the another icon, which is the arrow. So copy, and that's what we have to paste down here. You can see it looks pretty good. So we have done with the both the icons and the polygon default. Now we can come here, simply close this header one. Now we can come here, come down. We have to take a network section, comment this, and copy and paste, say end of network. Inside that we're going to take a div. It will have a class called network. It will have a network item. We'll take a class called network item, network list, because that's the classes and the ID we have assigned. So now we have to take a paragraph. Inside that, let's assign a class to network item. Come back here, and we need the lock icon. Simply take that one and paste here. So this is the lock icon. You can see looks pretty good. Now we can come down, and we have to display our network name. So we'll take a span, and we'll say Ethereum mainnet, Okay, something's wrong. Now cut this one and we have to paste inside the p tag. So now this will looks pretty fine. Now replicate it couple of times because we are displaying 5 networks. So let's replicate it 5 times, and all we have to do is to simply change the name of the network. So simply come here, change this to Polygon, save it, close this one. Now we have to provide this one to Polygon Mumbai, save it, close it. Now we have this one called Gorilla Test Network, remove this one and save it. And this one is the Sofali Test Network, remove this and save it. So something's wrong, I think I forgot something. Let me have a look. So this is the entire network items. Now we can come down and we have to display the button. So let's take the button first. We'll take a button, it will have an ID called add network, and that's the button we have. And then we'll take a class and it will have the button 3 class, and it will have the add style, and let's call the add network. So save it. This is how it looks. Something's wrong. What I will do is I can simply come up here and I see that I forgot something. So you can see here we have that one. So come here, we'll take a script. Let's connect the script first because we have the JavaScript, and now let's connect that one. So let's connect the pop-up. Looks pretty good. This is the button we have. Now we have to take a div and we have to wrap this network item component into a network component. So that's what I forgot. So let's come here, we'll take a div. It will have a class ID, network, and it will also have a class called network. We'll cut this one and paste right down here, so it will be inside this. And you can see that we have, by default we are hiding our network, the drop down. So let me open this one. So what I will do, I'll come here, let me take a div. Let me take a div. It will have a class called network I title, and here we have to display the p tag. So we'll say network. So that looks pretty fine. And what I will do is I will simply comment this script tag, and if I reload that, nothing is happening. What I will do, I'll come here, I will copy the ID, or I can copy the class, come back to the CSS file, and I have to search for it. So you can see this is the network. So I have to search for the other one. We have 6 networks, and this is the network. So by default we are making displays to none, so you can see that. So I will simply hide this one. So you can see this is our network. Looks pretty good. It's getting out of the box, but that's absolutely fine, not a big deal. So our network component is looking fine. So simply hide that one and come back here. So this looks pretty good. We are done with this network drop down. Now what we can do, we have to move to the other component. So we'll say hero screen and copy and paste here. This will be end of hero screen. Now we have to take a div. It will have a ID. We'll say create account, and we will have a class called home screen sign up, and inside that we'll take an image. We have to display our logo. So we'll go to the blockchain coders, then we'll assign the alt attribute, and let's assign a class as well. We'll say home screen image. So our image will display. So somehow by default this home screen is hidden, so we have to make it visible. So simply copy this, come back to the CSS file, and we have to search for the particular class. So there is no class by the name create account. That's weird. Now we can come here, and this is the one we have to target. Copy that one and come back here and paste here. So you can see by default we display is none. So we'll simply comment this, and here it's displaying. So we'll start working on it, and after we're done with that, we're going to hide it. So that's the image we have. Come down, we'll take a h1, and it will have a class called home title. It will have this particular title, the blockchain coders. Looks pretty good. Come down, we'll take a p tag, and here we're going to display the message, welcome to next generation crypto wallet exchange, the most complete dApp solutions. Looks pretty good. You can type whatever you want. Come down here, we'll take a button, and it will say ID open create. It will have a class called button3, and we'll have a connect wallet. Save it. Now we have to display the text. So we'll say create account. So that's the account. Now we'll come down and we'll take a p tag. We'll say login to your account if user already have his account, and we'll take a strong tag and we'll display it. Will have a class called home title, and it will have an id. We'll say login account and we'll display our text. We'll say login. So that looks pretty good. Okay, this one is for create account. So this one is the home screen. Close all this one, and looks pretty good. So that's the home screen we have written. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply close this one. Now bring this up, and now we have to work on the next component. So we can come here, we'll say create pop-up and end of create pop-up. So this will actually create our account. So now come back to the css and we have to hide this particular one. So we'll come back and we'll simply uncomment this and hide it. So save it and it's gone. Now we have to work on the create pop-up. So we can come here, we'll take a div. It will have a class called id call create pop-up. It will have a class called create pop-up. It will have, and inside that copy that one and come back here, and we have to search for it, and we have to simply display by default. So we'll simply comment this one and it will display our component. Come back here. So here we are. Now we can bring this down and we can take a div. It will take a class called form. Inside that we'll take a p. It will have an id called heading, and we'll display our heading create account. Looks good. And now we have to display our input field. So we'll take a div. It will have an id called field. Inside that what I'm going to do is, so if you come back here in the extension, if I click on the extension, and you can see if you click on this and if you click on this create account, it's going to open this one. So this is what we are working on. Okay, now we can work on the fields. So I'll come here. First thing I have to do is that I have to take the CSV icon. So I need this particular icon, the log one, copy, and that's what I have to paste here. We got the icon. Now I have to take the input field. So I'll take the input will be the text. Then we'll have a class called input icon, input field, and it will have a placeholder called name, and it will have an id. We'll say sign up name. So that looks good. Something's wrong, they are not properly aligned, so I forgot to add something. So I can see where it is a problem. So I can come here, I can simply close this one. I will take another div and it will have the same class. So we'll say field, and I will cut and paste down up here. So it looks fine. Now it's working good. So what I will do, I will simply replicate this couple of times. So this one is the second, save it. This one is the third one, say, and this one is the fourth one. These are the 4 data we need. So let's change this one. So I come here, I can take the @ icon, and that's what I'm going to paste here. So close here and simply remove this, paste, and that's the @ we have in the second input field. And now we can simply close this one and change the placeholder to email, and this will be the email. Save it, close this one, and now we have to work on the other two. So the password. So we can come here, and this will be the password, and this will be the password. Save it, and the last one we'll have the password confirm. So change this to password confirm, and this will be the password confirm. Password confirm. Save it. Looks good. We have no issues so far, and that's all the input field we have. Now we can provide some space, because if you look at these input fields, they are very close to each other. So let's provide a space. So we'll take a p tag and we'll have a class called space, and it will give us the space. Simply copy and paste in between these input fields, and now we have very good space. Now we can take the button. So we can come here, we'll take a div. It will have an id called center. So instead of taking button, what we can do is when the user will click, we have to display our loader. Okay, so that's what we're going to do it. So let's assign an id to center, then we'll assign a class to center, and in that we're going to build our loader. So we'll take a div. It will have a class called loader, and simply copy and come back here in the css file, and now we have to search for center class and simply stop this one. Okay, not this one, search for it, come back, and this is the one. Simply comment this and it will display our loader component. Cut here, come back here, and now we have to build that. So here what we're going to do is we're going to take 12 bars. So we'll take a div, it will have a class called bar1, and altogether we have to take 12. So simply replicate it 12 times, and we have to change the class to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you save it, you will have this loader. And that's the benefit of working as a utility classes, because the classes are ready. All you have to do is to build the HTML and everything will come to life. So our loader is working absolutely fine. We have no issues. Simply close this one, come down, and now we have to take the button. So we'll take a div. It will have an ID called account data. It will have a class called account data. Make it capital. Inside that, what we're going to do is we're going to take this h3 and we'll have an ID called account info, and it will say account. So what will happen that when the user will successfully create his account, we're going to display this particular component, and in that we're going to display his address, private key, and nomic foundation. So that's the component we are working on. So let's take that. It will have the p and it will have an ID called create address, created address, and we'll call it address for the time being, because this is going to be dynamically populated. Now we have to take the another one, which is the private key, and simply copy and come here in the css and let's open that one. So let's call it, so where it is, and here we have, simply comment this, and here we have, you can see the address and the private key is displaying. Looks good. Now we can take the last one for the nomic. So we'll take a p tag and we'll display the ID created private key, and in that we will display the private key of the account. Then we have to take the last one, which is a nomic, and we'll provide an ID created mnemonic, and we have that. The data looks pretty good. Looking good. Save it, and that looks pretty good to me. Now we can come down and we can take the button. So we'll take an ID. It will have a sign up, and it will have a class called button3, and we'll have a button connected wallet, and we'll say sign up. So that looks pretty good to me. And now we'll have on one more button for closing. So it will have a ID called go home page. It will have a class button3, and we'll have a connect wallet, and we'll say go back. Save it. Looks good. Now you can come back to here in the center, and now we have to simply hide this loader. Save it. It's gone. Now we can come back to the account data, and that's what we have to hide it, and save it. Gone. And here we have the input fill. By default, this is what we're going to open whenever someone will create on the create button, and this pop-up will open and they can put the data. Now it looks good. So this one is working absolutely fine. Now we can do one thing. Simply, this is the create pop-up. Now we can simply come down here and we'll say logging component. So this one is for the create. Now we have to work on the logging one. We'll say end of logging, and now we have to hide this one. So simply copy this one, come back to the css and search for that, and here we have, simply uncomment this, and this will be hidden. By default, we're going to open the login page, and all the pages will be going to open and close with the help of JavaScript and the user interaction. So close this one, come back to the HTML, and now we have to build on the login component. So we'll come here, we'll take a div. It will have an ID called login user. It will have a class called home screen login. Inside that we'll take the image, the blockchain coded image. We're going to take it. It will have a class because we have to reuse the size. So we'll say home screen image. We'll come down, we'll take this h1, and we have to display the title, so it will have a class called home title and will display the blockchain coder. We have the text. Now we have to take a div. It will have a class called form. It will have an id called login form. Here we have to take a p tag and we have to display a short description, so we'll say welcome back, the decentralized web awaits. You can type whatever you want. So that's the title we have. Let's type it dab, and we can come here. Now we have to build the input fields, so we'll take a div. It will have a class called field. Inside that we have to display the icon, so we can come back. Looks good to me. Now we have to get the icon, so come back here, go back to the, we need this at the rate, copy that one, and that's what we have to paste here. So this is the icon we have. Now we have to take the input field, type text, and we'll take the id, so we'll say login email. Then we'll take the class, we'll say input field, and we'll take the placeholders email. So looks good. Now simply come here, copy this one and paste one more time, and this time we have to display the password icon. Simply copy that one and paste here. Okay, that's fix one. Simply copy and replace this, paste here, and that's the icon we have. And we can change the id, so will be the password and the placeholder is the password. Looks good. Save it, and that's the input field we have. Now we can come here and we can take a button. It will be have an id, we'll say login up. It will have a class called button3 and connect wallet. Inside that we're going to take this p tag, we'll say login to your account. Okay, it's not there. We have to simply cut this one and paste down below. Inside the button we have to display the login, and here we have to take a strong tag and we'll have a class called home title and we'll display the id for opening the account create component, and we'll say create account. If they don't have the account, then they can create it, or if they have the account, they can simply log in. So this is the login, and this is the by default page we're going to open. Save it. Looks pretty good. Simply close this one and looks good. Now we can come here, we have to work on the transfer component, so user can transfer the fund. Now we can simply say end of transfer component. Now we'll come here, we can do one thing, we can simply copy this one, come back to the css, and for the time being we have to hide it, so simply copy and paste and say display none. Looks good. Now come here and we'll take a div. It will have a class called transfer form. It will have an id called transfer form. Inside that first we have to open it, so let's find out. Simply comment this and it will open our component. So close this one, come back here, and we have to work on it. So we'll take a div. It will have a class called form. Inside that we'll have the image, so we have to display the blockchain coder image. Remove this and let's assign a class. So we'll say go home and we'll type the id, so the id will say go back, and let's change this image. We need to display the left icon, so arrow left. So this will take the user back to the home page. Now we'll take a p tag and it will have an id and we'll call it transfer fund. We can come here and we can take a div. It will have a class called field. Inside that we're going to take the icon, so at the rate icon we take, or we can take the log icon. So we'll take the log icon and we'll take the input field, type text, and we'll say class, and it will have the input field. We'll say placeholder to be the amount and the id is the amount. Looks good. So that's the first input field, and now we have to take the another one for the address. So simply close this one, simply provide a space and simply copy this and paste here. So we'll have some space, and now we can change the address. So first we have to change the icon csv file. Come here, get this one and simply click on replace this one, and we have to change the amount, the placeholder, transfer address, and we have to change the ID to address. Looks good. Close this one. Now we have to build the button. So this one is the form one, and now we display the loader because we have to display the loader when the user is doing the transfer. So this is the loader we have already built. So we're going to take this one, the entire loader we have built in the create pop-up, and come here, and that's what we're going to simply paste here. So if we come back here, this is the image, this is the field, and this is the place where we're going to paste our loader, and we're going to change the ID, only ID. So we'll say transfer container, and the rest would be fine. So if you come back here, if you go to the center, the loader, and if you simply uncomment this, our loader is working absolutely fine. So that's how we can call our loader. Now we have to display the transaction message. So once the transaction is complete, we have to display the transaction that you can verify the transaction. So let's assign an ID link. Let's open this in the new tab, and we're going to say check your transaction, and we're going to populate this URL for every single transaction with JavaScript dynamically. Okay, after the transaction will complete, we're going to display the URL of the transaction where the user can verify. So that's the transaction. Now looks good. Now we can come down here, we can take a button. It will have an ID called transfer fund. It will have a class called button 3, and we'll have the connect wallet, and we'll say transact transfer, save it. So this is the entire transfer component we have. Looks good. Close this one, simply copy that one, come back here, and we have to simply hide it by default. So uncomment this, so it will be hidden. Come here, and now we have to work on the other component. So we'll come here, we'll simply do one thing. We'll take now we have to work on the import component. So copy that one and paste here. We'll say end of import. Now we're going to take the div. It will have an ID called import token. It will have a class called import token. Inside that, we're going to take a, let's say, div. It will have a class called form, and we're going to simply bring this to live. So comment this and come here. Inside that, we'll have to take the image because we have to allow user to go back to the home page. So we have to display the arrow, and we have to assign a class. So we'll say go back the ID import, and it will have the class as well. So we'll say go back. So it looks pretty good. Let's take a p tag. It will have an ID called heading, and we'll say import token. And now we have to display the input field. So we'll take a class called field. Inside that, we can come here. We have to take the icon @ icon, and that's what we have to display. Save it. Down below, we have to take an input field. We'll say input field. It will have a class called input field. It will have the placeholder called token address. That's how it will look, and it will have an ID, so we can get the address of the token. Looks good. Now we have to simply replicate this 3 times. We have to assign a space. Now we can simply take this and paste here, and looks good. Close this one, and we have to change this to, this one is token name, and this will be the name. Save it. Now we have to simply place it one more time. So save it, and here we have to display the symbol because we need the symbol to display in our UI component, and this will be the symbol. And we can remove this. That looks pretty good. So this is the entire input fields. Now we can come down, and we can take our button. It will have an ID called add new token. It will have a class button 3 and connect wallet, and we have to display our import text. So this is the entire import component. So far so good. Now close this one, and now we have to work on the other component. So looking good to me. Bring it back and simply copy and paste here, and this will be the account. Copy and paste here, and this will be an account. Simply hide this particular one, so display none. And now we have to work on, we'll take a div, it will have a class called home, and we'll take a id, it will have a class id home. Then we'll take a div, it will have a class called home header. Inside that we'll take a div, it will have a p tag called heading id user address, and by default we'll say connecting, and this data we're going to populate with the JavaScript when the user will create or his account. So let's comment, simply display. So where it is, this is the one. Comment this out, and here we have the home component. So if user will logged in, or if user have as an account, so this is the page we're going to display by default if user is logged in. But if user is not logged in, we're going to display the login page. So that's one. We have simply copy and paste here, and we have to change the text to and remove this id because we don't need that. And that looks good. That's the header. Now we can come here, we have to display the image. In the blockchain coder you can display whatever you want. Let's assign a class called home header image. Looks good. We can come here, we'll take a h1, we'll have an id, we'll say account balance, and by default we're going to display this 00, and we can say Mate. Looks good. Now we can simply come here, we'll take a div, it will have a class called home feature, and inside that we'll take a div, it will have a class called home feature item. Inside that we'll take an image, so we already have the image. We're going to take this by image, then we'll assign a class called home feature image. We have the icon. Now we have to display the text, so we take a p tag and we'll say by. That's how it's going to look. And let's assign a class called text. Simply grab this one and copy 4 times, and just change the image name and the text. This will be the user, this will be the account, and this will be our import, and this will be import. So we have all these 4 features we are providing. Looks good. No issue we have so far. Close this one, come here, and now we have to work on the tabs. So we'll take a div, it will have a class called home tabs. Inside that we're going to display 3 tabs. Let's assign a p tag, it will say open, we'll say open dash asset, we'll say asset. Let's replicate it 3 times because we're going to display 3 tabs, and this will be the logout, we'll say logout, and this will be the activity and activity. So these are 3 tabs we have. Save it. Looks good. Now we can simply come here and we can provide the space, so we'll have some space from the bottom. Looks good. Let's provide twice, so we have some space. So this is the tabs component we have. Now here we have to display our components. So this is the asset component, and this is what we have to do. We'll take a div, it will have an id called assets, and it will have a class called asset, and we're going to feed the data with the help of JavaScript. Okay, that's the only thing we have to do, and we're going to populate the data in this with the JavaScript. Let's come down here, let's work on the activity. For the activity I'm going with the hardcode data, but you can make it dynamic. So we'll take this div, it will have a id called activity, it will have a class called activity, and inside that we'll take a div, it will have a class called asset item. Inside that we'll take the image, you want to take this particular image, and it will have a class call asset item image, and it's not displaying. So what I will do is, to see that styles are applying, I will simply copy this one and come back to my CSS file, and let's try to comment this, and you can see our activity component is open. Now we can come here, we'll take a span and we'll display this dummy address, and we'll display the balance as a dummy one. Looks good. Let's me short this one, and looks pretty good. So this is the activity section. So whenever you can do one thing, you can store this data of the transaction which users are doing in the local browser, and from there you can fetch and you can render, or you can store the data in the API, and from there you can fetch and do the transfer. That's what you can do, but I'll just leave it on you guys. Looks good. Copy and paste. So we're going to display this two activities, hardcore data, but you can make it dynamic anytime. Looks good to me. All the things are working absolutely fine. And now we can come here, let's uncomment this script which allow us to connect with the JavaScript we have written. And now we have two options to import the 3.js package. So as long as we are testing locally in our Chrome browser, we can definitely use the CDN. But if you want to upload the extension on the Chrome store, then the CDN will not work. We have to use the library internally, and we have both the things. So let's do one thing. I can simply take this script, and I'm going to take this script and I'm going to simply import the CDN. So this is the CDN you have to type. So http cdn ethers.io/library/ether 5.2, and we'll say und minified JS. We have to define the type is gonna be the application / JavaScript. So this is the CDN we are using for the ether library, and looks pretty good. Now you can simply comment this. There is nothing in there, it's hidden. Now we can come back here. You can see here we are on the home page. Simply uncomment this, it's gone. And now by default we have to display our login page when the user will come. So let's find out where it is and where we have that one. And here we have simply display block, and hide this one, remove this part, comment, and you can see this is the default page we're going to display. Looks good. Make it big, reload the browser. Let's do the inspect element and let's see, do we have any error? And looks good. Yes. Do we have error? Yes, we have a lot of error, but we're going to fix that. Okay, you can see here we are, somehow this account list is not defined. So I guess I made a spelling mistakes. So this particular ID is not there. If I search for it, it's not there. You can see that, and that's why I'm getting this error message. But we have target that ID in here in the pop-up JS, but the ID is not there. So that's the one bug we have. So that's the bug we're going to fix it. I found the problem, the error I was getting. So come back here in the import component, and you can see this is the entire component we have built. Import component, these are the field we have, and this is the button. So all you have to do is to add this particular div. It will have a class called account list, and it will have an ID called account list. So once you add this, will not have the error, and this time things will work fine. So here we have target that one, and here we have that one. So in that way the error is gone. So if you come back to the browser, you can check it, and here you can see that I have connected the, simply remove this, uncomment this, simply remove this one and uncomment this, save it, and things looks pretty good to me. So far so good. Here we have all the things. You can simply console log out the entire ether library. So do we have or not? So save it, come back to the browser, do the inspect element, and here you can see still we are getting this address is not defined, because there are, I know why this particular error is happening, and we have faced this errors a lot of time in the NFT marketplace, in the Uniswap, and in the other project we have built, and that's the very easy fix. So I just want you to think that why we are getting this error. So I'll definitely solve this one, but I want you to think that why we are getting this particular error, and this error is coming from the my function. So just try to analyze that. So let's look at this. So we had seen, see there we have the object which is for the ether package. We have all of that. So it looks pretty good. Close this one, and you can see we are getting this one. I'm going to comment this, simply close this one, and here we are. all the things are working fine. You can click, you can come back to the create account, you can click on, go back, you can see our click event is also working fine. You can click on this create account, this will input the fine. If you click on that, this one is also looking fine. We are getting the RPC URL for different network, but we are focusing mainly on the Polygon. You can make it dynamic, so looks good. All the networks are well working, and here just forget about it. This will not create any issue in the when we'll deploy this extension. Reload the browser, and so far so good, no issue we have here. And that's the only thing I want to cover in this video. So whatever we have built so far in this particular video, I hope everything is making sense and you guys have built the entire HTML the way I did. If you guys have encountered any error, make sure to rewatch that. And in the next video, we're going to fix couple of bugs, because we have couple of bugs in our extension. So that's what we're going to fix it in the next video. And in the next video is going to be the last video, in that we're going to fix the bugs and we're going to deploy. So let's move to that.